I added an extra field to this form. There's another video that will talk about that. At this point, however, I want to go over the process of filters, and I want to also show you how to make this a split form. So we're going to go to Design View, which I'm right-clicking there to get to Design View, or you could have gone this way to go from the form to Design View up in that corner. I'm going to go to the Property Sheet. Whoops, I'm not in Design View. I want to go to Design View. And I need to have this little block selected. If you're selected somewhere else, that little black box disappeared, but I want the whole table selected. I want to change this to a split form, and I prefer to have my data sheet on the bottom. Some of my staff still really prefer looking at something that looks like a spreadsheet, and that's what this enables us to do. You'll notice this new gray bar, and it can be dragged up by clicking on it with the mouse and dragging it up, and now you see something that looks like a table. If you drag it down, you can see the form. Other nice features, if I click here, you'll notice that the form keeps up and changes the records. It also changes where I am in the record, so if I'm tabbing through, it just follows along. So you can use them together if you want to. I personally prefer the form, but I have several staff that prefer the table. One of the things, though, that is nice about the table is most people are familiar with filtering in Excel. And the way we process is we assign IDs, and we just really have to hit the first one or two letters depending on how many people are in there. And then a staff member comes in and they see, okay, I've been assigned to these applications, and they go to the date field, date reviewed, and they would look for whether it had been reviewed or not. So if I come back in here and I process one, let's say I process this particular one, putting in the gender and my under 23 and that they're a U.S. citizen, they were automatically classified, they're a resident because of the high school rule. And I'm not worried about when their presence began because they're a resident. We use that field to determine if it wasn't sufficient, we can have a date on Space Mountain that says when it would be sufficient. And then if I had extra comments, I could add them here. And let's say he got his date of birth wrong, I would just check that. And then when I'm done, I would put in today's date. And you only have to put in 06/12. Can't use the T like in Banner. And then it would take me to the next record as soon as I finished tabbing through the fields. And I could work on the next record. And if this one was a female, and she's 16, and her citizenship is U.S. citizen, and it was an auto-classify, and she auto-classified as a non-resident because she forgot her parents' information, and so to us it looked like things were not, intent wasn't sufficient. And the dates just were thoroughly unclear, and we have a missing parent signature, who knows. Then we put in that date. So basically, after that, if I was coming in the next day, I would come in and I could filter for I just would want the ones that I was processing, and I would just want the ones with a review date that was blank, and then I could pick up processing again. You can also, if I unfilter here by clicking here, you can use on the Home tab, on the ribbon, the Advanced Filter by Form, and you can clear all the filters. They're already cleared. Filter by Form. If you do that, it blanks out the form, and you end up with these two tabs. The dangerous thing in here is sometimes people think they've hit Filter by Form, and instead they are just on a blank record and they add new records. So you have to be really careful. So here I'm going to put my S enter, and it remembers because these are drop downs, it has options for what the values can be if they're a drop down. And then for date, it is null. And on anything that doesn't have an option, you'll get an arrow and it'll give you values that have already existed. or it might give you the is not option. And then I'm going to go to the advanced apply filter sort, or you can right click apply filter sort, and I'll get those same 5 records that I need to process. I have all added these as quick tools. You'll find I found out that if you right click, you can add. Now since I've already added, it's grayed out. Let's see. I'm not going to do that right now, but I was going to show you. So on this one, I haven't added it, so I could, and then it would appear up here, or I can take that off. Just right click. So those are the filtering options. And then if someone's out, you can quickly reassign and go say, oh, I want Michelle Kelly to be on that one because Sarah's out today or she didn't finish her work. Other things that could happen is maybe you get a new staff member, and if you'll remember, when we built the table, we said that this was one that you could add values. So let's say I hired Kara Freeman, and it's going to say, that's not on the list. So now you're thinking, okay, is it not on the list because I spelled it wrong and I just noticed I made her letter, or is it not on the list because she wasn't on there? Well, I know today that it's not on the list because I'm trying to add her. So I'm just going to say, yes, I want to add her. And I say, okay. And you could add even more values while you were there. So now I can assign to Kara Freeman. And that is what I want to say. The other thing that's nice about filters with the table is if you're trying to get counts, that's pretty easy to do. So you can come in and let me put in some other review dates. 5/15. We're just going to make some dates up here. And 5/6. Whoops. Let me get in the right field. 5/16. 5/18. Etc. So then if I want to get counts, I can go in and there's these date filters and I can say, I want last month. And so then I know, okay, there were 3 applications processed last month. Wow, that was not a very big month. So you can quickly get your tracking done. You can also go and check and see how many students were residents or how many students were had an error, or how many students did you have to reclassify. And from this kind of data, we figured out that about 99% of who we reclassify is because of a prior non-resident status. So I was trying to find that auto-classified field, except for I don't have much. Process complete, gender, 23. Here we go. So you could get your counts there. If you reduce that down, it'll tell you that there were 2 students who were auto-classified. And you could get your counts of residents as well, and who was resident or non-resident. It's not very much data right now, but when you have a lot of data in there, these filters can be very helpful for getting quick counts for tracking purposes. And that is another reason that I really love Access.